up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Orange County. Y'all, this is season 17, episode 1, and this was actually a pretty decent first episode for this new season. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. So let's get into this episode. So the episode opens up and we see Tamara. She riding on her Harley. They're doing a montage of all her chaotic scenes she's done, all the unhingedness inside of her. And she pulls up to her old house, which she is living in now. She tried to make it seem like they did such major renovations on the home, but when you look at it, all they did was repaint the house. Like, they painted the house a different color, from like a brown tannish color to white. And then they tried to do like, oh, the inside is different. Like, they did massive renovations, but all it looked like is that they put new furniture in there. We find out that her mom is living with her, and in their like guest home, I guess it has like a pool house that's like disattached to the house. And so she got a little boyfriend. We also see Eddie, and we find out that he is closing Cut Fitness. If you've been watching the previous seasons of OC, Cut Fitness was like a big deal for Tamara and Eddie, especially when Tamara was going through that phase of wanting to be a bodybuilder. So they really pushed Cut Fitness, but unfortunately it got hit by the pandemic like a lot of gyms did. And ultimately Eddie decides to do close his business and start an early retirement. So he's selling the equipment. Tamara is worried that, you know, she doesn't know what kind of state he's in, because sometimes he's really like, he's okay with making this decision. Other times he's very distraught about it, which is understandable, because I don't think people go into business like, or create businesses wanting them to fail. But we all know, like, I think they said most businesses fail within the first like 5 years, or they close their doors the first 5 years, because it is a task and you have to be very committed to going with the flow with everything. And so, I mean, he's choosing to close his business, which is his right. I'm shocked they brung Tamara back, y'all. And I guess I'm shocked because it seems like all of the shows are like getting rid of their OGs and not really bringing them back. And if they do come back, they're coming back in like smaller capacities, but not like full time. So I'm just surprised to see her. But then again, when I think of OC, for OC, Tamara is a staple. Like, when I think of OC, I think of like Jesus Jugs, Gretchen, Slade, Tamara, Vicky, Heather, Shannon, and even psychotic, bigoted Kelly Dodd. And it's like, she's a staple, but it's just like, y'all really want her back. But then again, the way Tamara, and y'all know I talked about Tamara begging, because Tamara, especially during the airing of OC last season, season 16, and even when she was on Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip season 2, Tamara was on Twitter and Instagram begging, dry begging. I know her knees have to hurt with all that groveling she was doing. And I was just surprised that they brought her back. But then I feel like maybe the network is like, well, she's this desperate to get back on this show, she'll probably do whatever we say. She'll probably really try her best to give us good TV. But I just was like, y'all really brought her back. And I can tell she gonna work for it. The episode continues and we see Emily and Shannon going on a hike with their dogs. They are catching up. We're finding out that, you know, Shane passed the bar and now Emily is pretty much a stay-at-home mom and trying to get her life together. We find out that Shannon's oldest daughter, who's 21, by the way, is ready for marriage, and her 2 twins are in Paris with David. And y'all, when she said 21 and ready to get married, I said, girl, couldn't be me. 21-year-old Leah would never. I could never fathom that. And it was always crazy to me when I would see friends of mine, especially around that age, like 20, 19, 18, getting married. And I'm like, that's not gonna last. And none of them really did last. Most of the people I know that got married around that time frame got a divorce by the time we all hit 23. Cause it's like you change so much. The person you are when you're 18 is definitely not the person you are by the time you hit your mid 20s or your early 20s. Like when you're 23, 24, 25, you're not the same person. And it was just mind blowing to me when I was like, y'all really get married? Okay. But when they said that Shannon's daughter goes to a religious school, it made sense because that is the culture at those religious schools, because they do take the whole like sex before marriage thing like real serious out there. And I remember watching a TikTok where this guy was like at, I think it was a Mormon school, and he was going around in the library asking everybody like, oh, are you engaged? Are you engaged? And like most of the majority of the video, everyone he spoke to was like, yeah, I'm engaged. Then his follow-up question was like, well, how long have you been with that person? And I think the longest number I heard was like 8 months. Everybody else was like, oh, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. I said, you don't know them. You don't know them. Run. So it's not like, it's shocking, but it's not shocking. So like I'm telling y'all, they're hiking and stuff like that. Like I said earlier, Emily does one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen, which is lick out of a dog bowl. Like Shannon gives her her dog water because it's hot and they're hiking. And after Emily allows the dog to lick out of the bowl, she drinks the water. Shannon is like, girl, trying to offer her water bottle. And Shannon's like, so we're licking out of dog bowls now? Hypochondriac OCD Shannon was appalled. And I was appalled with her. I don't understand why Emily does this stuff. Because the first season we saw of Emily, like, she would never, first season Emily for herself would never be doing the antics that Emily does now. Like bringing a hoagie into a sauna with Heather and Gina, bringing soda, like a 2-liter bottle of soda to go try on swimsuits with Dr. Jen, to now you're drinking out of a dog bowl. I think Emily tries to be the comic relief of this show, and it's not hitting because she's not funny. It comes off clumsy and goofy, and it's weird. And I think it's like, I honestly think it's because Emily is not comfortable being around of all of these quote unquote like skinny women or small women, because we know Emily is not comfortable in her body. And as someone who is fat, I can always tell when someone tries to make themselves the butt of the joke before anybody else can, or try to be the funny one in the group, because you know I'm the fat one and they're always the funny one. As a fellow fat, you can tell when people do that stuff on purpose because they don't want to be the butt of the joke. And Emily does it, and it doesn't make sense to me because she's not fat. She's just bigger than the lady. She's an Amazon. She's an Amazonian. She's statuesque. She a stallion. Emily the stallion. But she doesn't want to be that because she's always comparing herself to like being bigger than the other ladies, but she's not big. Like, she's not fat. She just got more, more curves and stuff. And in other cultures, girl, you would be A1. Okay? But I can't believe that lady licked out of a dog bowl like that. Like, that was normal. Like, dogs don't be out here drinking other animals' pee, that they don't eat other animals' excrement, their own excrement. I've seen a dog eat literal vomit that they threw up and ate it again. We've seen them lick their own balls and their own vulva. Girl, I don't care what science says about their mouths being clean. It's still nasty. So Emily and Shannon get to talking about Tamara because they know they're going to have to see her here soon. And Emily's not happy with Tamara because she was like, Tamara was talking trash about me when she was on reality. They showed a clip of Reality Blur where Tamara pretty much said she thinks Emily is just an angry person. And she was like, she was dancing on my grave when I got fired. That's what Tamara said Emily was doing. And Emily was like, girl, no, I wasn't. Then Shannon brings up about how, every time Tamara was like going on someone's podcast or asked to speak about something, she was always speaking very negatively about me. And they play a voiceover of someone asking Tamara, do you think Shannon is an alcoholic? And I think she said yes, or she said something to that effect. But then she also said that like she regrets defending Shannon so much. And I forgot how much, like how close Shannon and Tamara were before the whole firing situation, because that's what Shannon says. Shannon was like, we were close. Like that was my best friend. But then after she got fired, it was like she wasn't opening to communicating with me anymore. And I honestly believe more so of Shannon's. Like, you know what? I feel like it's a mixture of two. I feel like Tamara probably hated the fact that she got fired, clearly, because she was begging for that job back. And I bet you she felt like everyone was distancing themselves from her now that she was fired. And when there was times that Shannon wouldn't pick up the phone, or maybe she missed her call, Tamara probably felt like Shannon was trying to like distance herself, or she was shafting her because she was no longer a part of the show. But Shannon was like, no, I have proof that I was texting her to see if she was cool, if she was okay, if we were still good. And I think it's a combination of both, because I can see Tamara, because Tamara is dramatic. She acts like she's like always the victim of everything, that I could definitely see her feeling like a few missed calls that person doesn't want to speak to her, or that person isn't wanting to be friends with her anymore because they're no longer a part of this show. And I can see Shannon reaching out to Tamara and being like, girl, I done called you several times and you ain't picking up. You ghosted me. Both of them are dramatic. So we finally see Heather, and we find out that Terry tore his meniscus and he had to get surgery, so she's going to be taking care of them. I know they are happy that they have a elevator in their house because it came in clutch. So while he's sitting in the bed and Heather is like rubbing on his feet, she talks about her situation with Gina and how she kind of feels ghosted the same way Tamara does. But with Gina, she's like, I reach out to her. I don't get no information back. She doesn't respond to me. I, try to invite her to things. Nothing. But then when I get on social media, she's having fundraisers. She's out about the town with Emily, but she doesn't call me, and that hurts my feelings. So Terry's like, well, maybe she feels that way because, people always think like because we're so fancy that we would look down upon their events, but we're not like that. And Heather's like, I don't care. Still invite me, even if it's not fancy. It's just the thought that counts. And honestly, I don't think Heather is so snooty, because she is snobbish, that she would like, she knows where she's going. I don't think Heather would be that type of person to expect something lavish. Like if you saying like, girl, we going to Olive Garden, Heather's not expecting much. I don't think she would ever go to an Olive Garden, but I don't think she's expecting much from it. They also are sitting in the bed catching up with their kids. We find out that her two oldest kids, Max and Nikki, are off to college. And, she's talking about they have valet, like laundry service. They have to be going to a private school, because I know that would never happen at a public school, or at least they go to like an Ivy League public school, because baby, the only thing we had for our laundry in undergrad was an app. Like you could put your clothes into the washing machine or the dryer and sync it up with your phone, and it would let you know when your clothes were done, so you didn't have to stay in the laundry room the whole entire time. But like Heather said, people would move people's stuff if they felt like you were taking like too long. I remember one time, it was freshman year, and we had a laundromat in our dorm in the basement, and I remember coming down there. I had gotten the alert on my phone, and some girl was about to move my stuff, and when I tell y'all, I glared, and I mean mugged the shit out of her, because I was like, girl, patience is a virtue, because I promise you, the alarm went off on my phone, and I was already downstairs making my way to the laundry room either way, because I was like, oh, it's about to be done. So it was like, you couldn't be that patient. Ooh, girl. But the whole thing with Gina and Heather, Gina's a user. She has proven herself to be a user. She did it with Shannon. We saw Shannon actively help Gina and be there for her during her time when she was dealing with her DUI, offering to have her lawyer represent her. You got Emily, who's always like eager to be Gina's like backup friend, and then now she's doing it to Heather, because we have the scene of when they actually like meet up to have their conversation, and it was very awkward, and it gave very much like Gina's like, well, now we have to film, I need to make sure me and Heather are cool, because she calls Heather, like she's like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood and I got gifts for the twins. And Heather's like, well, people don't normally just pop up at my place. Like, there's 3 gates you have to go through to get to my house. So, and so they finally have a sit down and conversation. And Heather just tells her the truth. She's like, girl, you hurt my feelings. Like, you genuinely hurt my feelings. Like, I reach out to you, you don't call me back, but then I get on social media and you're having fundraisers. And they zoomed in on the Miss Fancy Pants thing, because that's kind of the moniker people give Heather. So it's like, you're using her. You basically used her, because I know Heather also last season was talking about setting Gina up with her people, with branding her like skincare line. So it's like she uses people and then discards them, and then she's shocked when they have an attitude or voice their disdain or their discomfort with her, because Emily did it last year, and Emily's like, well, welcome to Gina's world. And I'm like, that's not cool. And Gina acts like it's not that big of a deal. And the thing is, like, I have friends that I don't talk to on a regular basis, but we check in on each other, and then we spend like hours on the phone just catching up, like every 2 or 3 months, or every month, once a month. So it's like, no one's asking for you to call them every single day. But if I shoot you a text, I expect a text back. It may take time, but at least respond. Or if I call you, I expect you to call me back, or just to make sure I'm okay. There's so many ways that you can get in touch with people that there's really no excuse anymore. You got DMs, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. Send me something, a smoke screen, something. So Gina's sitting there. She's talking in circles, trying to be like, my life's been hard. We didn't have I guess her boyfriend's kids for a long time, because now she's like, I gotta work on feeding 6 mouths. So now she's trying to get her real estate license. And it's like, people use getting in their real estate license as such a go-to, like if the real estate business is such an easy business to break into and get money. Like, people do not be making money off of real estate for like years upon years. They basically squash it and decide to move forward. So we finally meet the newest housewife, which is Jen. She is originally from Oklahoma, but she moved to the OC when she got married. Her husband, well, not her husband, her ex-husband still lives in Oklahoma, and he still works with her family business. But once they got a divorce, I guess she chose to stay in the OC. We're introduced to her by way of Tamara. So she's supposed to be Tamara's friend. And we find out that Jen and Tamara met at Eddie's Cut Fitness gym. And that's also where she met her boyfriend, Ryan. We then have scenes where we actually meet Jen's like family. So she has 5 kids. Like the youngest one is adopted, and she has a daughter, and the rest of them are boys. They're all varying in like ages. I think like the youngest one, I think he was like maybe 8 or 7, and then the oldest one was like 16 or 8. No, I think he was 18. She got a lot of children. But Ryan, while they were doing like, unpacking, because they just moved into a new home, was kind of voicing his concerns, because we find out that her ex-husband, who still lives in Oklahoma and works with her family business, when he comes to town, he comes and stays at her place while Jen goes to Ryan's place. And so Ryan is kind of like, I can deal with this for about a year, but after that, we're going to have to find something else. And I understand that, because I would kind of feel weird too, but I guess because he's just a boyfriend, it's like, your feelings and your opinions are valid, but do they really mean anything if y'all don't have like a real commitment? Like, if the kids are okay with it and she's kind of okay with it, it's kind of like, who are you? You know what I mean? But while they're at the bowling alley, Tamara shares with them that, pretty much Eddie is having a hard time with closing Cut Fitness. We also find out that Jen is having she also opened up a business. She's having like a yoga day, outside yoga day. She opened up her yoga studio during the pandemic, which I was like, girl. But now she's trying to do outside yoga events. So she invited all the girls to come. So we have this scene of Gina, Tamara, and Heather doing pickleball. And they have a fun time. I didn't really care. And they had like a pro like instructor teaching them. So they decide to sit down and have lunch, and they start talking. And Heather lets it be known that her and Shannon have been really hanging out, and she's really been enjoying her time with Shannon. That makes Tamara be like, she stopped talking to me after like for the past 2 years, like we haven't discussed like spoken to each other. And Tamara was like, I want to call her and tell her how much of a horrible person she is, because I've been going through a lot. Simon having cancer, which is Tamara's ex-husband. And she was like, that was a lot to go through. And I thought she would be there to hold my hand because I was there for her. And they showed like a flashback of the ladies, like they showed when Emily and Shannon were speaking about the situation. Like Tamara and Shannon were actually like really close. Like really close. And I feel as though like Tamara didn't go about this the right way, in my opinion, because if you really cared about your friendship, you would have called her or made some type of way to be like, hey, can we meet up? But you didn't. You just went to like every time you got on like not TV, but every time you got on a podcast, you was talking trash about the lady. So it's kind of like, what did you expect? Like, did you expect her just to be like, oh, welcome you with open arms after she hears you speaking so negatively about her? But Heather is like, she's different, and I think you guys should have a conversation. We then have the end of the episode event. It's like the group event where Jen invited everyone to like her outdoor yoga session. So they had the yoga mats in a circle. Everybody that I guess signed up participated. We see all the ladies get there. So you have everyone kind of looking at Shannon and Tamara like, okay, are they gonna hug each other? Are they gonna say something? Because everybody knows they got beef, but they hug each other, they say hi to one another, and they move forward. While they're doing the yoga, hilarious, Shannon was like falling all over the place. And mind you, yoga is not easy. Like, you may think it's easy, like a lot of us were like, oh, it's just breathing, but yoga is actually like really hard. Really hard. Like, I did yoga. I've taken a few couple of yoga classes, and you really do have to learn how to like balance yourself. And Shannon was doing a horrible job at it. But while they're done doing like, I guess, the yoga exercises, they have like an intuitive coach there that asks everyone to like pair up, and you see Shannon and Gina paired up, and Gina's like, are you okay? Like, how are you feeling? Because the coach was like, say what you need to say to this person. And Shannon's like, bro, I'm uncomfortable pretty much. And Gina's like, it's okay. So then Emily and Tamara have a conversation, and Emily kind of feels some type of way because Tamara said that like she was a mean, angry person. And Emily's like, Tamara, I feel like you have a kind spirit, but it's covered in all of this stuff. Like, you have like a wall. And we all know Tamara didn't have the best childhood, and neither did Emily. Tamara says, like, she was abandoned when she was a kid. And Emily says, the same thing, like I was kind of left to my own devices when I was a kid. So like, I want to move forward with you. So they are going to work on their situation. We then see them go to like, I guess like I don't know where they went. They went to some other place, like a restaurant, to have dinner and everyone to eat and cool down. So we start to get more information about Shannon. Unfortunately, her and Dave, and no, is his name David or John? No, it's John. And we know John and Shannon ain't together anymore, even though I did see a clip of them at a restaurant, so they might be back together. But, it's Shannon. Yeah, it's Shannon, Jen, Emily, and some other lady that was participating in the yoga event there, as well as we see at another table is Gina, Tamara, Heather at another table. So while they're at that table, they're like talking, and Emily brings up how she thinks she used to feel like Shannon was just so difficult, but once she got to know her and understood what she was going through, she realized that she was fighting a lot of battles, so it made sense. I was like, Emily, what was the point of this? What was the point to bring up that you felt like she was difficult to somebody new? So then we get more about Gina and her situation. Pretty much her family treated her like trash. When she wanted to get a divorce from her husband, her family was just like, No, like I guess they're one of those like maybe religious families or very conservative families that don't believe in divorce. She said like her family tried to have an intervention with her, and she was like one of the memories she remembers the most out of that situation is her father going off on her, pointing his finger in her face, and like she was like at that point she thought she was gonna get back with her husband, but she chose not to because it was just something that was just very like she just couldn't believe her family was being this way towards her. But then Emily lets us know in the confessional that Gina told her, because we find out that Gina and Jen know each other because they met at like I think Cut Fitness, and then Gina started going to her yoga studio and stuff, that it sounds like Jen cheated on her husband. And that was really the reason why they was pissed off at her. And it was like, how dare you want to get a divorce and you was cheating on this man. That's what it sounded like, but we don't know yet. We don't know yet. So we see the other girls at the table. Like I said, it's Tamara, Heather, and Gina, and they were talking about how Shannon doesn't seem as wound up as she normally is. And Shannon even said when she was talking to Jen, like, you know, ever since I got with David, I'm not as wound up because I feel like I let go of a lot of stuff. And they all were joking and saying that they thought maybe Shannon was on, you know, on that refoot, as the old people say, and that was what was loosening her up. We then see everyone kind of transition because Tamara goes inside to go get something to drink, and then you see Gina and Emily talking to Tamara and saying like, you need to talk to Shannon, like you need to take time to talk to Shannon because this is awkward and y'all really had history. And Emily's like, you need to tell her that she hurt you, but you really need to talk to her. Shannon leaves the table to go inside to go look at what they had on the table to eat, and they were like talking about her, but I guess they didn't know that Shannon was behind the table. The way Shannon's face looked, I screamed. I had to pause the video and rewind it because she was just like, oh, y'all talking about me? It was funny. That was funny to me. So Shannon's like, y'all talking about me? And they're like, yeah. And they're trying to play it off, but then Shannon and Tamara start having a conversation, and Tamara is about to cry, so you can tell that she was really like, she misses her friendship with Shannon. And she tells her, you know, we close and Cut Fitness. Their dog that they had died. And she was like, that was hard for her. And, you know, she was just like, she was like, it's been kind of a rough 2 years. Shannon ends up saying, you know, I'm the happiest I've been in my life, and I don't want any turmoil. I don't want to have beef with anybody. So can we have a sit down? Because Shannon's like, I don't want you to feel sad, but I still need to tell you, I feel like you did me dirty. So next episode, they supposed to have a sit down, and it sounded like with the voiceover, it got heated. So that was pretty much the end of the episode, but I'm actually excited to see how this season pans out. Like, I want to know why Jen and Tamara aren't friends anymore. Like, Tamara, in the trailer, you see Tamara throw a towel in her face, and Jen is shocked. Like, she can't believe she did that. So I'm really interested to see, like, what caused the breakdown in their situation. Even though I bet you it was Tamara, because she was throwing shots at that lady in the confessional when we were first introduced to her, because I think production asked Tamara, like, what does she do for a living? And she called her a prostitute. I said, oh, okay, Tamara. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic, and hop down in the comments below and give me your thoughts. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.